Welcome to the Keeping IT Real podcast. This podcast features honest and transparent conversations about what it takes to manage corporate technology and expenses today. Each episode, listen to true and personal stories from IT professionals who are working hard to make sure their business stays connected and competitive. I'm your host, Jethro Castillo, and let's meet our next guest. Today, I am joined by Jason Fowler, the director of IT at Playa Bowls, an acai shop with over 100 locations worldwide. Jason is a very interesting take on IT, planted primarily in the entertainment and restaurant industries his entire career. I'm very excited to hear about his journey and how IT impacts a rather unique industry that this podcast hasn't talked about all that much. So Jason, thanks for being on the podcast. Excited to have you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
So we talked before the podcast started, and now I feel like I kind of deprived the audience of the nuggets that I received. So let's just start with the classic question of how did you kind of fall into this role? How did you get into IT in general? Was it sort of you were born and you were like, I like computers, and it was just smooth sailing from there?
Not exactly. I mean, I come from a family who likes to build things more on construction side. My dad had been in construction his whole life, never done anything different. We always had cars laying around in the house. And we were always kind of tinkering and building stuff as I was kind of growing up. And I always liked computers when I was younger. As they kind of started making their way onto the scene, I love trying to figure out how things are put together and how you put something together and the output you get out of it from. So even from a young age, I kind of had that. But as time went on, my background was sports, right? I golf and soccer and baseball, basketball. I love sports. So that was kind of more of my avenue. And, as time went on, I always thought that I would end up in some sort of role like this, but not to this magnitude in IT. I just, like a lot of other interesting things in life for people happen. I kind of fell into it, and I guess we'll kind of call it the right place at the right time. But it's been an incredible journey to even just get to this point.
Yeah, I mean it's a great mindset too. You want to talk a little bit how it did fall into your lap, how you ended up coming into IT formally?
Yeah, absolutely. So it didn't really happen for me until I was living in San Diego years ago, doing a little bit of IT work. Mostly I was involved in restaurants, golf courses, nightclubs, bars, things like that, where I was earning my living. And I moved to Dallas. It's been maybe 20 years or so by now. And I stumbled across this company called Top Golf, and it was right down the street from my house. And hey, what a perfect background for me, golf, and great. I needed a part-time job to make some extra money. And as things kind of went along, it was like, wow, this is a really neat concept, something I'd never seen before. There was lots of people coming and going. It's kind of like the new thing here in Dallas. And there was, I was so curious about how the concept got put together and how the computer chip and the ball started. But there wasn't a formal IT department. But as I uncovered some layers there, it was like, wow, this is really interesting. This connects to this. Oh, that's how this all works. And so it piqued my interest very early on when I first started there. And a lot didn't happen for my first couple of years. I worked a lot in operations. I understood how the business itself ran. But we didn't do much. We didn't open any stores. There's just kind of like this cool concept. But then as a couple of years went on, I kind of got my big break where we started opening a few more stores, and I had a board member. I'll never forget this. It was Christmas Eve, 2011. I had a board member at the time. I was working at the store, one of the stores here in town. Board member came up and said, hey, I want you to lead our IT department, but I don't have an IT department. When can you start? Here's the chairman of the board, never interacted with him. I knew his name, I knew who he was, but I never interacted with him before. And it was all uphill from there. And it's been a fantastic ride. And so they figured out that I could dissect things on how they were kind of put together, but ultimately I could help drive the business and kind of get it to the next stage of growth. And man, from there, it's taken off ever since.
What is it like being in the place where you get to merge tech and entertainment?
It's amazing would be an understatement here. I mean, it's to be able to take things, concepts, ideas, blend them together with experiences where I'm taking technologies and mixing it with, great food, great chefs, great innovation on a menu, and a great entertainment experience for either a guest that walks in a building or a fellow employee that's helping, those guests have a phenomenal experience. It's incredible. I've served golf, served food, I've served pizza, I've served fun at trampoline parks. I mean, it kind of goes back to the old cliche of, hey, if you find something you love, you never work a day in your life. And it's still happening at even 20 years later in IT. And I know a lot of IT seems kind of very, misjudged sometimes, right? But being in the kind of that entertainment space is a lot different for me in a great sort of way, where a lot of the work that I've been a part of is having, people have fun and entertaining folks, right? It's like being an actor, where I'm an actor. I just happen to be working in a technology, but providing, that experience to somebody to walk in a store or have a great time with their kids or their family. It's been an amazing journey, and I think I'm only kind of tipping the iceberg here to more great things to come.
Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot about, and traditionally IT is typically the behind the scenes, right? You handle the things that keep the business running. You support the business. You don't really support the customers, but by supporting the business, you support the customers, right? Make sure that we have everything connected and set up. But I've talked to IT leaders in the NFL, and they're like, and the technology is a direct impact on the customers because it's the experience, right? The technology is a huge part of the experience. Walking into that restaurant, walking into the trampoline park, walking into Top Golf, right? I have the TVs to show me what the score is. There's literally TVs to watch shows back there. There's a laptop or computer or monitor there for us to order food. So kind of cool to hear about it from that perspective, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is. And, there's day-to-day pieces, right, that are part of those traditional things, right? But ultimately, anything that I'm doing or my team's doing, or I'm collaborating with our stakeholders and our leaders or our franchisees with, are producing some sort of experience, whether it's the guest in store, whether it's somebody on a corporate support system that their role is to help that person deliver that experience, right? But the end of the day, if I do those things and I do those two things well, I'm winning, right? But, serving up an experience, serving up fun, I'm just and fortunate to be using software and tools and automation and kind of that fun stuff to make those things come to life, right? Where it makes things a lot more automated, a lot more robust, a lot more reliable, a lot easier for somebody on the other end to either have that experience or execute a program that they can deliver on, right? And so being able to be part of that and seeing those things happen and seeing it when you walk into an establishment, a store, a facility, you're like, wow, I was a big part of that. My team did all that work to make this one little thing happen. And you see it right in front of you, right? Where a lot of other IT things can happen behind the scenes, right? Where you set up this massive data center and it looks great. And you put all this time and energy and resources and money and people into it, but nobody ever sees it, right? It just sits way out in the field somewhere and it does great, right? You see it on your phone and it stores all these cool things. But for me, being able to walk into an establishment, to my current role at Playa Bowls, being able to walk into one of our stores and just see the excitement and the energy and know that my team's having a big impact on that experience for the customer walking in, or the employee's experience, right? To grow the brand and have that same experience is very self-fulfilling and rewarding. It's awesome. I can't explain how cool it is to, make a living doing these type of things, right? It's really fun.
The day-to-day of an IT professional is so dynamic that I always ask, what's your day-to-day? And everyone's like, it's different, like every 2 hours, but I'm going to try anyways. Jason, what does your day-to-day look like as the director of IT at Playa Bowls?
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming in about 2 months here on the job. So my day-to-day, from what I'm used to doing is definitely has shifted. Day-to-day, I try to start, 10, 15 minutes every morning, just reading what's going on in the entertainment space, restaurants, So I get a high level idea of what our competition's doing, what's out there, and kind of prep for my day. I'll spend about maybe 10, 15 minutes after that organizing the structure of my day, right? So I want to make sure I'm completing things that I'm focused on, especially the high priority things that I know I need to get done, and then blocking off a little bit of time on the calendar to make sure I can execute those things, right? Because you're right, IT can change at so many different levels, and it's hard when somebody needs help where I can just say, yeah, hold on a second, or they can't execute their job because a piece of our technology or our systems are inhibiting that. So, naturally I want to go, hey, I want to help you, but it also takes away time things. So being able to kind of allow for those things to happen throughout the day, I definitely plan for those. Obviously, you can't plan for everything, but I'll spend a decent morning going through email as quick as I can, and I try to. If it's anything more than about 2 or 3 bullet points, I tend to put it off until later. I'll kind of archive it. I come back where I can put some more time behind it, but I try to clear out as much of those just 2 or 3 bullet points, respond, and kind of start that where it gets me going for the day, where I can kind of organize the other stuff, and I can spend blocks of time doing those high priority things. And I think for me, sitting down and there's certain things where if I get interrupted, either things tend to take way too long, or I can make a mistake, which is very easy to do when things have to be in a certain order, or a program has to be designed a certain way. Wait, where was my place again? I lost my place because I got sidetracked, right? So I make that a point to make those hours or those blocks of time available so I can concentrate, get what I need to get done in a reasonable amount of time, and minimize my mistakes. And then I'll circle back kind of at the end of the day I jot down notes every day, just some things that were either on my mind throughout the day that, hey, I know I need to get to this maybe at some points. I keep a log of just about everything. Or if I got hit on a side conversation about X, Y, and Z, I don't want to discredit those things because they're part of my role here, but the time to dive into them and spend hours researching something that I may or may not get to down the road, right?
One, I really appreciate how in-depth you kind of go through your day. I think it's important. I think time management is such a huge part
100%.
of anybody's life, but especially as a manager, as a director. And so just to hear you talk about how you go about trying to make that efficient is really awesome. But it leads into the next question of, you're getting all of these thoughts or ideas from a lot of different stakeholders in your organization, outside your organization, and you already have your own stuff to do. How do you and your organization prioritize IT initiatives with your limited resources? How do you know what to do, when to prioritize it, and what not to do or push for later? How do you decide that for your team?
Yeah, I mean, when I first stepped into this role a couple months ago, I knew there was going to be a lot, right? I'm the first IT employee here, and so I knew coming in that there wasn't going to be a ton of, obviously a ton of structure, at least on the IT side. And the team's done an amazing job to get this far and run this great of an operation without a formal IT person or department, right? So they've worn a lot of good hats. And so I had to take a very different approach here where I knew I didn't want to get bogged down with the small stuff like you mentioned, but I knew I needed to hear it right out of the gate. I knew I needed to, I wasn't going to get a playbook on how all these things were architected and how this talks to this and how these things are put together, but I need to understand it. So it was, hey, don't be afraid to throw it all at me at once and let me just absorb and be that sponge. Let me just take it all in and give me a little bit of time after that, after several weeks, to come back with some recommendations for my roadmap. Because what I thought, I had an idea going in of what I thought I needed to do, but after 4 or 5 weeks, that was drastically different. Learning if I put this new tech stack in, I've got to structure this a current way where there's almost 300 stores. Well, I can't disrupt that, and I can't disrupt that growth. But in my role, I'm starting from almost ground zero on some of these new programs and initiatives and implementations, right? Where okay, I got to take kind of a different approach. And so I had to make more of a kind of an IT roadmap for a 6-month, a 12-month, 18 months, and 24 months. And within those, I've got 3 different goals that I've got to hit. And those are non-negotiable. everything falls within one of those three options for the next 2 years for me. When I get kind of the little side stuff, right? Those, hey, can you take a look at this, or this isn't working well, or this is very manual. I'll take some notes, and when we do our leadership collaboration, I'll kind of go through here's my IT roadmap. Here's where we're at. Here's some milestones we're hitting. Here's how things are progressing. But hey, here's also some other things that people have mentioned to me that, hey, this is a struggle in their day-to-day job. It's taken them an hour to do something that should take 5 minutes, right? Oh, so-and-so over here has said that to a different leader, right? And going, oh, well, maybe I need to look into this. This is more of a bigger effort than, hey, somebody just saying, hey, it's annoying that I've got to change my password every 90 days or whatever it is, right? Or, hey, why do we have so many logins, right? And it's one person, but if it starts to, I share that with the leader team, not to be able to do those things, but to bring the ideas that, hey, either our guests are saying these things or our fellow employees are spending way too much time. And then as I'm designing systems or architecting things, I'm evaluating partners that, hey, I need this specific thing. Can you do X, Y, and Z? Because I can max out a system, right? I can go, oh, well, this partner over here can do these 3 things, but this one can do 5. That's interesting. Now I've got a different conversation of I could get more out of a great partner, and I'm trying to do that here, where I'm taking a lot of the partners that do 1 or 2 things really well, but there's a lot of them, and consolidating them so we get a really robust, solid tech stack to where if I do need to bring on another partner or a piece of software or technology, not only does it integrate, but it solves something that I already knew was already been a pain point or a struggle, right? And so I use the little things to roadmap, 6 months to a year down the road of like, hey, well, I didn't forget about it, but if I could solve it without doing a ton of custom development or integrations, as I'm switching out partners, it's in the back of my mind going, there's a good option, right? And so I'd love to hear about those things, and I don't get bogged down with it, but if somebody goes, hey, can you look into this data and why this does this? I'll put it on the roadmap and parking lot it, but I'll come back to it, right? And a lot of times I will circle back to those things that come up. But if you shut off that avenue from people tend to never say anything. They just go, that's just the way my job works. And I've complained about it and nothing ever happens. And you have behaviors in a business that people just tend to go, oh, well, I share all these ideas and nothing happens. Well, in my world, that it's not that it doesn't happen. It's on a list and it's on a roadmap somewhere. It's just, where does it fall in on the journey of our IT roadmap, right?
I think a lot of people stop giving feedback because they feel like their feedback is ineffective, right? It doesn't matter. No change is actually happening. So to hear that you kind of have it all stored, it gives your team the belief and the hope that they can say things and it will be heard, and you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. So I think that's a really cool thing that you're doing. But I think the thing about your answer that I thought was incredible was this idea of, because I've had this question for a while, which is like, how do you ensure that you're maximizing what you already have before you buy something else that might be a waste of money, right? You want to maximize what you already have, consolidate, like you said, so that when you buy something new, you are solving a problem that cannot be solved with what you already have, and it doesn't overlap into other things that are already doing their thing really, really well. So that when you're getting all these small things, you're pretty much waiting for the small things to add up to something where one solution could like tackle all of it at once. And it's just a really like a nice way to assess like, okay, there's this issue. Can any of my current tools solve that? No. Okay, that means I have to find a new tool for that. But I don't have enough time or effort to just focus on that one issue. So I'll just let it sit. And then as time goes on and suddenly I'm consolidating, suddenly I have more small issues. Now let's look at vendors again, but to see how we can solve all of these other things too. And so I think that's a really, really cool answer of how to know when you need to buy something new, but it requires you to know what you already have.
You're spot on. I think having those things kind of in my back pocket when I am evaluating new vendors, where I don't want to go have a vendor that, unless it's a need, right? Where I'm like, I have to have this thing done because it's non-negotiable for our business, and there's the vendor only does one thing. Those things do happen, but it's more of, hey, if I am going to use my resources, my budget, my people to deploy something, it better work, right? And it better solve more than just somebody's pain point of, it's annoying because they can't do their job or it takes them too long to do something, right? And so having those things, evaluating vendors of, hey, well, I'm not asking you for something that somebody else in the industry might not benefit from. And that's one of the approaches I take on evaluating different vendors of, hey, you may not do that now, but I'm still going to ask you and get it on your development roadmap because when your software comes about, right, I'm also helping you as a growth partner because we're partners here. You're not a vendor. You're my partner, right? I'm growing my business. You're growing your business. And when I come across those, it is, hey, well, this could help the industry, right? So you're selling to other businesses, you're selling your software package or services or whatever you're doing. Well, now you've opened up, hey, I can integrate with 10 systems, for examples. Well, now you've got 15 and it helps your portfolio of your growth pattern, but it also helps me get what I need too as well. And I try not to be guinea pigs on things. I've learned over the years that being first, unless it gives me a competitive advantage in the market, being first is tricky and challenging, right? Because you never know what you're gonna get. And a lot of companies will tell you, yeah, that'll work, no problem. It'll work. And then you find out that nobody else is doing that. And it's, ooh, wow, that's risky. Am I willing to put it on the line for that? I don't know, at a startup, sure. But, just being able to take that calculated risk of I'll do some legwork, some dirty work for you and I'll help you get that. But I also, we'll negotiate things like fees and implementation and helping them with their own roadmap, right? Because what they see might be fit for when they developed their platform 5 or 10 years ago, but this is the way the industry is going, and this is where we can both benefit and work on those things and collaborate together is paid off in a lot of things where not only from a time and a cost savings, but from a growth pattern where I can get more out of a vendor, even though our partnership didn't include that right out of the box, or that wasn't part of their portfolio when we first partnered up. But we're both growing too, so it's definitely helped over the years to kind of take that mindset. And I'm gonna push my team to kind of innovate and get out of the comfort zone and try new things. And but I'm also gonna push my partners and my vendors to do the same too, right? Where, hey, can we try these things? Can we test it in the store? Can we get it in a lab? Does it work? I don't know, but I'm willing to put the effort in and the time and the resources to figure it out.
So that is another question that I have, which is IT changes so much, tech changes so much that the last thing you want is to invest in a vendor and then all of a sudden the IT landscape changes and they can no longer serve what you need. And so I would be like, if I was never an IT director, I'd be analysis paralysis. I'd stare at the vendor and I go, yeah, but I don't know if you'll help me 3 years from now. And so I'm not going to buy you and I'm going to wait until someone can meet my needs for today and 3 years from now. And then 5 years from now, even though I can't predict 3 years from now or 5 years from now. How do you kind of mentioned a little bit of like, it's a partnership. You want to work together and you help each other push to that. How do you ensure that who you're buying is future-proof, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I take the same approach that a lot of the partners will take coming into an organization, right? Well, they'll say, hey, look, we want to learn about your business. We want to learn how things are put together in order to have our technologies, be available to you guys, right? And so I'm doing the same thing on the other end. I'm going, hey, what's your roadmap? How does your organization work? What other partners do you have in the industry that are comparable? Can you let me talk to your other partners, right? Can you give me some examples? And I'm kind of doing that good lawyer talk and that cross-examination, right? Where I'm going, you want to understand my business. Well, I want to understand yours. I'm not just going like, oh yeah, to do all these things. It's great. You're telling me what's going to get delivered and how all your stuff works, but I want to know where you're going, what your financials look like, what your roadmap is, what's your growth patterns for the next 3 to 5 years. And that way, I can ensure that we're going the same, not only we're going the same direction, but yeah, to your point, like you guys are going to be around, your technologies are supporting multiple brands in multiple countries and languages. And you're also keeping up with the innovation and the security and the data integrity and all of the other things that are going on too, right? And so I can lean on you as a partner and go, yeah, I don't have to have as much of a worry about, are you keeping up with if you're hosting a data platform, are you securing things? Are you compliant? And are you doing those things that ultimately help me, but help everybody else? Even though, yeah, that's some of my competitors, but it's more of the approach of, hey, I want to make sure that your software is reliable and robust and you're innovating and we're going the same direction, right? And if not, you get partners that will tend to tell you everything, or I could do that, or yeah, we could do that down the road, but it doesn't exist today and it'll never happen. You just get somebody who says, hey, I'm the leading player in this industry and this is what you get out of the box. And then nothing ever happens for several years. And then to your point, you get stuck and it's like, I spent all this time switching something out to something I was hoping to get. But before I even get down the road of like, let me take your system for a test ride. Hey, do you have what are your other partners doing? You have this. I'm going to go around in my area, or I'm going to travel somewhere and I'm going to be a customer and walk in and see how I interact with your software and how it works and how the sign up process is or things like that. I'm going to do my homework and make sure that when I present my findings and my evaluation to the leadership team, hey, I've done my homework. I've narrowed it down. I met with X amount of vendors. Most, it's more than a handful, right? It's not just hey, I'm going to meet with a couple. It's, I'm going to meet with 5, 8, 10, whatever it needs to be for that particular product or module and go, hey, I found a couple. Here's my findings. Like, here's what I like about this one. Here's what's risky. Here's what I like about this one. Here's what's risky. Here's what I like about this one. Oh, here's the cost. Things like that, where I can present a case and know that the partner that I select, yeah, I'm putting my homework and my research and my preparation behind, and they're going to trust me to make the best decision, right? And go, okay, well, if that's the right partner, let's go. How do we execute it, right? And just kind of have that already figured out and not go, oh, I'm too far down the road of implementation. Now I'm kind of stuck,
Yeah. But as you talk, I'm realizing you're not just buying a solution to a problem. You're buying reliability. You're buying trust. You're investing in that relationship. You're not just buying a dream. You're buying a shared vision. And so, because like we're talking about, a lot of these purchases aren't small purchases, right? Sometimes they are, right? And sometimes it's just a buy and move. But a lot of the time, it's they're managing something. They're integrating with other pieces of your technology, and so you have to ensure that when you are growing and changing, that they can also keep up with your growth and your change. And so you can't just buy their services and leave. You have to know that you can trust them and that they're reliable. And so you need that relationship almost and understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot of that is building that relationship and a good foundation with a good partner that is willing to, stand by what they're offering you and hold up their end of the bargain, right? Where they're, promising that, it's great to sit there and look at a contract too, right? But there's certain things that are going to happen over time where if things go a different direction or I need something, are you going to be there to help me? Are we partners? Yeah. Or are you just selling me something that once it gets implemented, you kind of walk away and go that direction too, right? Being able to be, reliable, available, right? Where offering solutions, and are you open to it, right? Because what happens today might be something different tomorrow, might be something different a week or two down the road of, I need to pivot and go this direction. I know we already talked about this, but how flexible are you when it comes in terms of your design and your implementation, right? How quick can you scale? What happens if I want to open 100 stores in a short period of time? I know I'm not your only customer. Can you meet those demands? And so sharing those things before they happen and kind of being more proactive and not reactive with a partner is definitely helped me along the road of being able to get a lot of those out of the gate and just collaborate and share ideas at a either a biweekly or a monthly checkpoint, but being able to also, at the end of the year or on a 6-month roadmap, figure out like, are we still going that direction? Because things change. We got to check in with each other. We got to see how each other's doing, right? Like, hey, we're kind of friends at this point. We're kind of married too, right? Like, okay, we got to talk to each other, make sure like we're all good and we're still going kind of the thing. And if things do go the wrong direction, you got to bring it up immediately. You got to have those tough conversations. Yeah. And you can't be afraid on either side to kind of bring those to the table, right? Hey, we had some leadership changes, or business is pivoting, or we're expanding international, or whatever those things that were never talked about are happening. And that's the direction it's got to go. And how flexible are they? And just kind of, are they a company that's like, great, let's talk about it and get out in the open, or, oh man, that's going to be a while kind of thing. Right. And so just having that good relationship is key on any sort of technologies and any sort of partnerships in business. Right. And it helps both, but not only on my end, but it helps the providers on the other end too.
I talk a lot about how IT is better done together. So just hearing that, when you work with vendors, we're working together to kind of, as a whole, improve IT. I just think that's really awesome. I'm curious, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your role, and how are you tackling them if we're talking about Playa, or how did you tackle them if we're talking about the past?
Coming into this organization, doing my research, even before I started meeting with the leadership team on, what was out there, what the vision was, what we needed to kind of get done. Right, I'm coming in with an open and a fresh mindset of, I've got a very unique and amazing opportunity here to work with the internal team to build a solid, reliable, robust tech stack, which propels us for the future growth, right? Where, hey, I've got this really solid foundation of secure, reliable, huge partnerships, and a network that is a turnkey operation, right? Where our franchisees, our employees know that, hey, this stuff just works. And it's to them, it needs to look like it's very, very simple, even though it might be very complex in how it's put together on the back end. And that's why I'm here, right? But to deliver that very robust foundation of a technology stack that we can rinse and repeat, that it's very reliable, it's easy to support, it's easy for growth, is my number one key here, is to make those things happen.
No, I love that. And I guess it transitions smoothly into the final question to close. And I guess it's, over the course of your career, what are some of the greatest, most important lessons that you have learned?
I always tell people just to absorb and take on as much as you're willing to, and things that you're good at, be exceptionally well at those. I never pretend that I'm great at something that I'm not. It is here's my strengths, and I'm going to execute and be great at those things. And I'm working day to day on some of the things I'm not so great at. And if I'm not great at that, I need to execute it. I'm going to go get an industry expert. I'm going to hire a consultant. I'm just going to hire somebody and empower them to be great at what they're exceptionally good at. I also think that, IT is constant change, like we've talked about this whole time, where being able to execute and explain how things are going to work to somebody is a lot more manageable than just, hey, IT pushed out an update and it's just the way it is, right? You don't build a lot of confidence there. And I've learned over the years that it's very rare that from a technology perspective, that my team is just doing all these things without having a collaboration of, I'm executing marketing programs, right? All the things I'm doing are related to a marketing program, or a platform, or an operations tool they need, or a HR initiative with payroll integration, or finance and accounting, right? It's very rare that I just say, hey, I got to go do this, and it has no benefit to any other department in my organization. And collaborating with those leaders to go, hey, I'm just making your idea come to life, right? I'm the guy that gets to do the fun stuff and make your idea with a piece of software, hardware, technology, make it get out into the open and make it to the masses, right? And so I've tried to always take that approach and just collaborate with the folks you need to, and including people. I think early on is a big win for me, where people don't like to get blindsided at the very end of stuff, or, hey, I didn't know about this, I was never included. And it, no matter how great a solution you have and how much it's going to help somebody, if you don't get that buy-in early on, it's tough to execute things, especially from a technology and an update. And if things don't go well, boy, it's hard to rebuild that confidence, right? And so I like to get it out there at the very beginning and collaborate with as many folks on the team as possible. And that way I've got a good plan on how my team can go execute some of this fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your expertise. Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you guys. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on. I do appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed this Keeping IT Real episode, and thank you for listening. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. This podcast is all about celebrating and connecting professional heroes who work hard at IT every day. To continue the conversation and learn how VCOM can help you better buy, manage, and pay for your technology, visit us at vcomsolutions.com. Until next time.